So I'm going to talk about cloud native Jakarta EE in 15 minutes and show you how Payara seized cloud native and show essentially how Payara sees the evolution of deploying Jakarta EE applications onto the cloud. So I'm Steve Millidge. I'm the founder of Payara, and Payara is a Jakarta EE runtime, and we're all members of the Jakarta EE working group. So I can first take a look at what is cloud native. What is the definition? It's a very vague term, so I'm going to go through a couple of definitions and see how that applies in the Jakarta EE world. So this is one from InfoWorld. It shows it basically describing that it's a way of running applications that exploit cloud computing's delivery model. What is cloud computing's delivery model? It is essentially infrastructure on demand, infrastructure up there that you don't manage, an infrastructure that can be elastically scaled and elastically scaled out and scaled down. There's also the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, and this is where it gets a little bit more mixed up. So the Cloud Native Computing Foundation define cloud native as first, yes, that's something application that is scalable, that runs on public, private, and hybrid cloud. But then they get into containers, service meshes, microservices. These are what I would consider mixing up the definition of cloud native. Containers is just implementation. Microservices is just an architectural model that doesn't require cloud. So basically going to recap what is a Jakarta EE application, because it's quite important how Jakarta EE works in comparison to some of its competitors like Spring. So one of the key points about Jakarta EE, or Java EE as it was before, is that you package your application up into an archive. And that application, that application is standalone. So you pack it into an EE file, into an archive, you take your code, you take your dependencies, and you sometimes have things called deployment descriptors, but nowadays that is more in annotations that describe how your application should be packaged and how it should work and what resources it should use. But what Jakarta EE doesn't do, or doesn't make you do, is it doesn't make you worry about or package up things for handling metrics or messaging or threads or security or data sources or databases. All that is what we consider in Jakarta EE world is like part of the responsibility of the runtime. So you're not building your own runtime. You're expecting to take your application, which is just a WAR file, and deploy it onto a runtime infrastructure, which Payara provides. Traditionally, that would be called maybe an application server, like a classic Payara Enterprise, or WebLogic, or JBoss, or Tomcat, or something like that. But the key point for being cloud native, and the key point about Jakarta EE, is that it does that separation. You have an application which is a WAR file, and that is separated from the runtime. You can take that application WAR file and you can run it on many different runtimes. You could run it on JBoss, you could run it on WebLogic, you could run it on Payara. And you could run that on different infrastructure, and you could run that on, say, a Raspberry Pi, or you could run it on cloud. So there's different ways, so there's different advantages of separating the runtime from the deployment. So other things like Spring, you package the whole lot together. Jakarta EE, from the first days of Java EE, have separated these things out. There's a number of advantages to that. The first is, obviously, you don't have to assemble this thing together. Everything just works. It's a version runtime. Payara provide a runtime. You don't have to worry about high availability, scalability, or health of your application, or any of those things. You can just focus purely on application development, business logic, and making sure your application works well for your business without worrying about all the infrastructure pieces. That's the key advantage of building WAR files over, say, packaging up a fat jar. So when you come to cloud, there are a number of ways that you can run applications on cloud. The typical way at the moment is you would build a fat jar. So if you wanted to run on cloud, you would package up your application into a single jar file. That would, for example, you'd package up either the whole Spring framework, or you'd package up, in our case, you could package up Payara Micro, or you could package up a Quarkus or something like that. And then you have to get that running on the cloud infrastructure. What that typically would then involve was you then building a Docker container, working out how to then get your Docker container running in the cloud, either through container services, or maybe you want to put it on Kubernetes, and then you have to build a whole lot of Kubernetes infrastructure. You need to create pod definitions, create YAML files, and you need to take that one jar file and then package it all up again to put it onto a cloud infrastructure and to run it on a public or private cloud. And what we thought as a Payara is let's change how that is. As I said, the big advantage of Jakarta EE is it separates your application from the runtime itself. So what we're building at the minute in Payara is something called Payara Cloud. What that is it's turning the whole cloud into your runtime. So you don't have to worry about how you package up that. You just take your application and you deploy it, and then it runs on a cloud infrastructure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to so basically show you what that means. So instead of having to take your runtime, provision it, build YAML files, build Docker, build pod definitions, put it out into AKS or Kubernetes, and create all the application monitoring and do the ingress and all those other things. And basically, we just thought that that's crazy in a Jakarta EE world. We could take your application, you could deploy it, and it would be running on the cloud. So in this, I'm basically going to show you what that looks like. And we're in the middle of building this as a service, but we're also in the middle of building it as a piece of software and a runtime. So what we have here is we have basically Payara Cloud. And what you would do is you log in, and you see something. This is basically like an application server console. So we have concepts of namespaces. These are where it matches to a Kubernetes namespace, but it allows basically microservices, if you've had a group of applications, to talk to each other through the namespace. So I'll go into our namespace, and you can see that we have monitoring and everything on here. So all I need to do to get an application running is deploy it in the same way as you would say deploy to Payara normally. So if I go in here, upload an application, I can choose a WAR file. So I'll take the game demo WAR file, and then I can upload that and deploy it. So just like you would, you go into a JBoss or a Payara admin console, then you just upload your WAR file and you deploy. So this is what you do with Payara Cloud. So once the application is running, you get your metrics. You can get heap dumps, you can get thread dumps, you can upload new binaries, you can search the logs. And as I got 5 minutes left, I won't go into that. And then you can access basically your application. So that's the application that I've just deployed. It's running, and it's deployed onto cloud. Okay? So it sounds ridiculously simple because I've just done that in a couple of minutes. And I've basically taken an application and ran it, and this is running live on Microsoft Azure on top of AKS. So what have we done? So what is Payara Cloud? So what we've done is say we've taken Kubernetes, and we've taken the Jakarta EE concept of a deployable application, and then we've done all the work for you, like we should do as a Jakarta EE runtime. So we've basically taken Azure Kubernetes service and built an application server on top of it. So just that action that I did there and deploy is we've taken your WAR file, we've packaged it up into a Docker image along with Payara Micro, which is our micro runtime, that's Jakarta EE. We can run Jakarta EE applications. We've done all the YAML work. We've built container images. We've created a pod. We've deployed that and started running that on Kubernetes. We've sorted out all the API server in an ingress on Microsoft Azure, and even generated SSL certificate for the application. And then we run that. Because all that is infrastructure that, as a developer, you don't care about. It's infrastructure that is a complete pain to set up. It's an infrastructure that is a complete pain to maintain and run. So where are we going? If you're interested, the next step is to sign up for Payara Cloud. I have got another slide, so I don't know why that's not on there. It's not synced, so I'll just quickly do this. Just to show the roadmap in the last 2 or 3 minutes of where we're going. So Payara Cloud is an ongoing development project. It is built now so you can deploy applications onto cloud. We're going to launch it as a hosted service, but also in our longer term, it'll be a Kubernetes native application server, so you can be able to install it on Kubernetes. It has currently got full CLI, so you can do command line, you can integrate it with GitHub Actions to deploy on commit, and do all that continuous integration, continuous delivery. We're moving on to more clustering, and in the summer we're building zero downtime. At the minute, if you do a redeploy a new application, there's a couple of seconds as pods shuffle around where your application would be unavailable because of ingress on Microsoft, and we're sorting that out as well. And then at the end of the year, we're looking to create basically a Kubernetes native installable, so you can put it on top of any Kubernetes platform, whether it would be, Kubernetes Raw or Rancher or OpenShift or AKS or AWS Kubernetes service. As I said, next steps. If you're interested, we have something on the website where you can see videos. You can sign up to get more about it, to register interest for an early view. And really, thank you for that for your time at lunch to do a very short talk. Payara Cloud, really for us, is reimagining what an application server is. Application servers fundamentally are about taking your applications and running them on whatever compute infrastructure you want to run it on. And Payara, as a company, we're reimagining how Jakarta EE applications should run. So we're taking that concept and building on the concept of just a pure WAR file, and then building different runtimes for you, right from Raspberry Pis right through to public cloud. So, thank you. Any questions?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So I come from the fat jar world.
Yep.
All of this is quite foreign to me, and I'm used to building my own containers, writing my own YAML scripts. How does this thing scale? So I deploy an application, and I'm used to sort of like writing the YAML config to set up auto-scaling and saying, like, if the CPU exceeds X, then start scaling things up. But in this managed runtime, is that all taken care of for me, or how does all of that work?
So first, you can choose different pod sizes. Okay, so you could choose whether you want X number of vCPUs, memory, those sort of things. Because it's Jakarta EE, we have metrics built in because the runtime can do metrics, and it will auto cluster. So you should be able to. We haven't got it yet, but we'll automatically allow scale out, pod scale down, and those things should be configurable without having to do YAML or anything like that. You should be able to do it from the console.
Great, thanks.
Thanks.